Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The morning sun peeked over the rolling hills of Humans, bathing the village in soft gold. Birds chirped from thatched rooftops. Smoke drifted gently from open fires where women cooked breakfast, and the hum of rural life buzzed with quiet rhythm. In the compound of Chief Nwankwo's family, Mira stepped out of the main house, dressed in a sleek wrapper and spotless blouse. Her gold earrings swayed with each arrogant stride. Her carefully straightened weave glistened under the sunlight. She carried herself like a queen, but not everyone in that compound agreed with her reign. "Get up, you old woman," Mira barked, her voice cutting through the calm like a blade. Mama Ada stirred from the bamboo bench in the courtyard. She had fallen asleep while peeling cassava earlier, the knife still loosely in her hand, the peeled tubers half done in the basin at her feet. Mira crossed her arms and scoffed. "Your mates are in the farms before sunrise. And you're lying here like a log of wood. What are you even good for?" Startled, Mama Ada struggled to sit upright, her tired bones creaking. She was in her late 60s, her hair grayed and coiled like wool, her hands marked with decades of work and sacrifice. Yet she said nothing, just adjusted her faded wrapper and looked down. Uche, Myra's husband and Mama Ada's only son, stood at the doorway, his eyes darting between the two women. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. He turned away and walked back inside. Mira rolled her eyes. "Of course, pretend you didn't hear," she muttered to herself. "Useless." Neighbors paused from sweeping their compounds. Some peeked through low fences. One or two elderly women shook their heads in disappointment. Mama Ada stood, gently brushing dust from her wrapper. Her knees wobbled slightly, but she didn't look at Mira. Without a word, she picked up the cassava and disappeared into the small kitchen hut. She even left the peels here. "No home training," Mira sneered loudly, making sure everyone within earshot could hear her performance. Later that day, as the sun reached its peak, Mira sat in the shade sipping from a cold bottle of malt. Her phone buzzed occasionally. She scrolled through her WhatsApp group with friends in the city, typing furiously. "If you see how this old woman is just wasting space in my home. She can't cook, can't clean, just sits around like one village mascot." She attached a picture of the courtyard where Mama Ada had slept. Inside the kitchen, Mama Ada heard her phone buzz from her corner mat. She ignored it. Her eyes were fixed on a small woven basket tucked beneath her bed, tightly shut, locked with a rusted iron latch. She hadn't opened it in over a decade. "Mama Ada," a soft voice called. It was Amaka, their neighbor's 12-year-old daughter. She brought her a bowl of fresh palm oil and greeted her respectfully. "Kidu, Mama? I heard what Mira said this morning. Are you okay?" Mama Ada smiled faintly. "I am fine and WAM. Thank you. Go home before your mother begins to call." As the girl left, she looked back once, worried. She'd grown up in this compound. To her, Mama Ada had always been the kind old woman who offered sweets and advice. That night, as the moon rose and the wind carried the scent of roasting maize from distant fires, Mira lay in bed beside Uche, fanning herself. "You need to do something about your mother," she said sharply. "She's dead weight. The village people are laughing at us. She's embarrassing." Uche said nothing. "I married into this family thinking you had class. But your mother? She's a disgrace." Still, Uche remained quiet. His thumb rubbed against his wedding band. In truth, he felt guilt. His mother had raised him single-handedly after his father's death. She'd sold every piece of jewelry she owned to send him to university. But standing up to Mira? That was another war he wasn't ready to fight. The next morning, Mama Ada was up before the sun. She lit the firewood, swept the courtyard, fetched water from the well, and started cooking ogbono soup. She did it not for thanks but out of habit. As Mira stepped out stretching, the aroma hit her nose. "You cooked?" she asked in disbelief. Mama Ada nodded silently. "I hope you didn't use my crayfish. That one I kept inside the black nylon?" Still no reply. Mira clicked her tongue. "You didn't even ask. God forbid bad thing. No boundaries at all." She turned back inside. From across the compound, old Mama Ifeoma, one of the oldest in the village and a childhood friend of Mama Ada, slowly walked in with her walking stick. "Ene Ada," she called cheerfully. Mama Ada smiled warmly, wiping her hands on a cloth before coming out to greet her. "How are you, my sister?" Mama Ifeoma asked as they hugged. "Alive by God's grace. I came to see how you're coping, with that lioness in your backyard," Mama Ifeoma added, voice lowered. Mama Ada chuckled, her eyes filled with pain masked as humor. She is young, she replied softly. She will learn. You're too kind, Ada. Too quiet. These young women don't understand the sacrifices made for these sons they now share beds with. As they talked, Mira watched from the doorway, arms crossed. She didn't like the way Mama Ifeoma was looking at her, or the way the old woman touched Mama Ada's hand like they shared a secret. She better not come here and start feeding her stories, Mira mumbled under her breath. But it was already too late. That evening Mama Ifeoma visited another elder, then another. And just like that the gossip started. Mira thought she ruled the compound. But Mama Ada? She held the quiet respect of the entire village, and that would soon matter more than Mira could ever imagine. Mira strutted across the compound in a wine-colored Ankara dress, heels clicking on the cement path. She looked like a Lagos socialite dropped into the quiet rhythm of Yumun's village, and she liked it that way. Mama Ada, she called, flicking her fingers. From inside the small room at the back of the house, Mama Ada emerged, wiping her hands on her faded wrapper. Come and sweep this place. The leaves are everywhere. And when you're done, wash the bathroom. Use bleach this time, not that village soap you people like. Mama Ada nodded silently and shuffled away to pick up the broom. Mira watched, shaking her head. Look at how slow she moves. Like a tired goat. A few steps away, Uche sat on the porch, scrolling through his phone. Mira turned to him. Are you just going to sit there while your mother brings shame to this family? She asked. Uche sighed. She's old, Mira. Maybe take it easy. Take it easy? Mira snapped. She lives in our house, eats our food, uses our water, and you're telling me to take it easy? It's her house too, Uche muttered under his breath. What did you say? Nothing. Mira turned away, muttering. Weak men create strong mothers. Strong mothers create weak sons. No wonder. Inside her room, Mama Ada knelt beside a small stool and opened her Bible. Her eyes rested on a bookmark tucked into Psalm 35. The verses felt like armor. Her gaze shifted to the woven basket beneath her bed, its handle wrapped in old cloth, its lock rusted from years of silence. She reached for it, then paused. Not yet. At dinner, Mama Ada served pounded yam and bitter leaf soup. She placed a plate in front of Uche and one in front of Mira. Then she carried her own food quietly to the corridor. Mira stared at her plate. Why's mine smaller? Uche frowned. It looks the same to me. She gave me less meat. Did you see that? I'm not stupid. Mira? She's doing it on purpose. She wants to test me. You're reading too much into everything. I'm not. I see the way she looks at me. Like I'm not good enough for you. Uche stood and walked away. That night, Mira paced in the bedroom. I'm serious, Uche. I want her out. We can send her to your uncle's place in Owerri. They have that small guest room. She'll be fine there. Uche looked exhausted. She raised me, Mira. She has nowhere else to go. She has that basket she guards like gold. Maybe that's her ticket. Uche glanced up. Leave her basket alone. Mira narrowed her eyes. You're defending her again. I'm just asking for peace, that's all. Then keep her in check. Days passed and the routine continued. Mama Ada would sweep, cook, fetch water, wash, and still get insulted. One afternoon, while Mira was hosting friends from church, Mama Ada quietly passed behind them with a basin of peeled yam. One of the women smiled at her and said, "Good evening, Mama." But before Mama Ada could reply, Mira barked, "Don't talk to her. She'll try to embarrass me with her bush stories." The women exchanged awkward glances. Mama Ada said nothing, her face unreadable. After they left, Uche approached his wife. That was unnecessary. I won't let anyone ruin my image, Mira retorted. Your image? This is our home, not a fashion pageant. Exactly. And she doesn't belong in it. Mama Ada overheard from the corridor, her heart sinking deeper. That night, she sat alone outside, moonlight casting silver shadows over her tired face. She whispered to herself, "Is this what I sacrificed for?" But still, she didn't open the basket. At the village well, gossip was as plentiful as water. Women gathered with calabashes and buckets not just to fetch but to talk. And lately the topic was Mira. "Did you hear she shouted at Mama Ada again?" one asked, tying her wrapper tighter. "I heard she locked the food store and only allows Mama to eat leftovers," another added. Mama Ada? That woman that once led the widows' cooperative. Yeso. But now she moves around like a maid in her own house. Among them was Mama Ifeoma. She sighed deeply. The one she mocks today, she doesn't know her story. Back at the compound, Mama Ada sat under the orange tree picking egusi. Amaka, the little girl from next door, came over again. "Mama, why don't you tell her who you are?" Amaka asked innocently. Mama Ada smiled. "Sometimes the loudest lessons are learned in silence." Mira strolled past them, sunglasses on, pressing her phone. "Still sitting under trees and picking seeds. No wonder nothing good comes your way," she sneered. Amaka's face darkened. "That's not fair." Mira turned to the child. "Excuse me?" Amaka stood up and curtsied. "Nothing, auntie. Sorry." But Mira glared at her. "Don't ever talk back to me again. Go home." Later that day, Mama Ifioma came to visit again, bringing garden eggs and roasted groundnuts. She sat with Mama Ada. "You've endured enough. I promised my husband I'd protect Uche, even from himself. Then let me remind you who you are. You are Ada Ease, daughter of the great Ease Ndebezi. You built schools and bought lands. You fed this village during the famine. That basket under your bed? Don't let it rot while this girl turns your name into dust." Mama Ada looked down. "She's not ready," she whispered. "But she will be." And just like that, Mama Ifioma stood up and walked into the center of the village square, whispers growing in her wake. The annual harvest festival was approaching, a time when every family dressed their elders in finest attire and honored their ancestors. Mira was excited, but not for tradition. She saw it as a fashion parade. "Mama Ada," she said one morning, standing by the wardrobe, "the cloth you wanted to wear? I used it to sew a blouse." Mama Ada blinked. "My blue wrapper? Yes. It's outdated anyway. You'll look better in this one." She tossed a faded wrapper onto the bed, brown with torn edges. Uche walked in just as Mira left. He looked at the cloth and then at his mother. "You don't have to wear that." Mama Ada smiled. "It's just cloth. Let peace reign." At the festival, Mama Ada arrived in the torn wrapper, holding her walking stick. The other elders stared. "Mama Ada?" one gasped. "Why are you dressed like this?" "I have what I need," she replied simply. But behind the scenes, murmurs turned into storms. Elders whispered. Women exchanged looks. And Mira? She posed for photos like a queen, unaware of the growing cloud. That evening, as drummers beat rhythms and children danced, the eldest woman in the village made an announcement. "Next year we will honor women who built our community. We begin by acknowledging those forgotten." She glanced at Mama Ada. "Some of you still carry weight." The crowd clapped gently. Myra's face fell. Late one evening, Mira stood over the sink, rinsing plates. She turned to Uche. "I've had enough. Let's send her to that care home in Enugu. They have clean rooms, nurses, everything." Uche rubbed his temple. "Mira, she's slowing us down. We can't even renovate this place without asking if she'll be okay with it. She's my mother. She's a problem. I can't live in a museum of her memories." After a long silence, Uche nodded. "We'll do it after the weekend." Mama Ada overheard from her room. She didn't cry. She didn't protest. She simply sat on the mat and pulled the basket from under her bed. Hands trembling, she wiped the dust off the lid and opened it halfway, just enough to look inside. Her eyes watered, not from sadness but from memory. The next morning she swept the entire compound, cooked a meal and mopped the corridor. No one asked her to. When the day arrived, Mira called the driver to prepare the car. "Tell her to pack," she said. But Mama Ada had only one thing to carry, her basket. She clutched it tightly as she stepped outside. Mira reached to grab it. "Leave that useless thing here." But Mama Ada's voice cut through the air, calm and cold. "Don't touch it." Everyone paused. Uche looked away. Mama Ada entered the car with dignity, and a storm no one saw coming. The compound was unusually quiet that morning. The usual rooster's call seemed muted by the tension in the air. A soft breeze rustled the mango leaves above as a black Toyota Corolla pulled into the yard, its tires crunching gravel. Mira emerged from the kitchen, holding a steaming cup of tea. "The car's here," she said casually, as if announcing a market delivery. Uche stood beside the front door, arms folded, guilt plastered across his face. He hadn't spoken much since he agreed to Myra's plan. Each time he looked at his mother, something in him crumbled a little more. From her room, Mama Ada stepped out slowly, wearing her simple white blouse and wrapper. Her gray hair was neatly combed, her feet bare against the dust. In her arms was the basket, tightly clutched like a newborn child. Mira saw it and rolled her eyes. "You're not taking that thing. They'll think we're sending a mad woman." But Mama Ada's expression remained calm, almost regal. Don't touch it, she said softly. I said leave it. Mira snapped, reaching forward. Before she could lay a hand on it, Uche stepped between them. Let her take it. Mira blinked. Are you serious? Uche didn't respond. He only opened the car door. Mama Ada nodded at him once. No smile, no scorn, just a look that carried decades of love, sacrifice and disappointment. She entered the car. As the engine started, neighbors peeked from behind fences. Mama Ifioma stood at her gate, arms folded. They will learn, she whispered. Inside the car, the driver, a young man in his 20s, glanced at Mama Ada through the rearview mirror. Mama, where are we going exactly? He asked politely. Just drive for now, she replied. He looked confused but nodded. Back in the compound, Mira walked back inside, humming. Finally. Some peace and quiet. Uche didn't follow. He stood still, watching the dust trail left behind by the car. That evening, Mira celebrated her victory. She lit scented candles in the living room, played soft jazz music on her Bluetooth speaker, and lounged on the couch with a glass of wine. To new beginnings, she said to herself. But Uche didn't raise a glass. He sat in silence, barely touching his food. Mira snapped her fingers. Snap out of it, Uche. You should be happy. I'm not, he said quietly. Mira scoffed. Oh please. She's not dead. I know, he murmured, but something in me feels like it is. 3 days passed. Mira enjoyed the silence, the space, and the absence of judgmental eyes. But on the 4th morning, just as she stepped outside with her morning cup of tea, she froze. There at the compound gate stood Mama Ada. Same wrapper, same clothes, same basket. Alone. No car in sight. She walked in slowly, with the grace of a returning queen, saying nothing to anyone. She passed Mira without a word and disappeared into her room. Mira dropped the cup. What? Oh. Why is she back? She stormed into the house. Uche, your mother is back. Did you know? Uche came out of the bedroom groggy. He blinked at the sight of his mother's sandals by the door. I didn't bring her back, he said slowly. Then who did? They approached her room. The door was shut. Behind it, faint sounds of prayer and a rustling cloth. Mira knocked hard. You can't just walk back in here like you own the place. Silence. I said. Mira, enough, Uche interrupted. But she. I said enough. Uche had never raised his voice at her. Mira backed away, stunned. That evening, Uche knocked on Mama Ada's door. She opened it and looked at him calmly. Mama, where did you go? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked to her mat, placed the basket beside her, and sat down slowly. I went to think, she said. To remember who I am. And now I'm back. Not for comfort, but for clarity. Uche lowered his head. I'm sorry. Mama Ada reached out and touched his hand. The day you married her, I promised your father I'd endure anything to protect our peace. But peace doesn't mean silence. Not anymore. In the other room, Mira paced back and forth. She's plotting something, she muttered. I can feel it. But Mira had no idea. Nothing could prepare her for what the basket truly held. Mama Ada's return stunned the entire village. No one expected her to walk back into that compound, alone, unbothered, and with that same mysterious basket. Whispers floated from one compound to another. She came back. Alone? With her basket? Something is coming. Inside the house, Mira was unraveling. She's embarrassing me, Mira shouted. She walked in here like a ghost. What if people think we threw her out? Uche sat in silence. His eyes darted to the closed door of Mama Ada's room. We did throw her out. Mira paused. What are you saying? Uche stood and walked away, leaving Mira speechless for the first time in days. That afternoon, Mama Ada cleaned her tiny room thoroughly. She wiped the wooden bed frame, scrubbed her mat, and carefully placed her basket in the center of the room. She sat beside it and opened her Bible to Isaiah 54. Enlarge the place of your tent. Her lips moved in prayer as her fingers rested gently on the lid of the basket. Later that day, Mira tried to sneak a peek inside. She tiptoed to Mama Ada's window and peeked through a crack. But just as her eyes adjusted to the shadows, the door creaked open. Mira, Mama Ada's voice rang out gently but firmly, are you lost? Startled, Mira jerked away. I was just, I thought I heard someone calling you. Mama Ada smiled faintly. You'll know when I call for you. Mira stormed back inside, slamming the door. She's mocking me. That old woman is playing games. But Uche wasn't listening anymore. He was watching his mother from the window, quietly, respectfully. The next morning Mama Ada left early, basket in hand. She visited Mama Ifioma and a few elders. She shared cola nuts, poured libations and sat in silence as they spoke. "She's ready," Mama Ifioma said. "Let the village see who they've ignored." Back home, Mira was pacing when she saw Mama Ada returning with a sharply dressed man in a gray suit, briefcase in hand. "Who is this now?" "Her pastor. Another one of those village prophets." But the man ignored her and headed straight to Mama Ada's room. "Mama Ada," he said, bowing. "I've come as requested." Mira blinked in confusion. Uche stepped out and approached the stranger. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "Barrister Ikanam. Legal counsel to Madame Ada Nwankwo." Myra's jaw dropped. "Legal, what?" Mama Ada turned to them calmly. "Call a family meeting. There are things you need to hear." The living room filled with tension. Mira stood with arms crossed, wearing a silk wrapper and suspicious glare. Uche sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa. The lawyer, Barrister Ikanam, opened his briefcase with practiced ease. Mama Ada entered last, wearing a simple but dignified white wrapper and head tie. Her basket sat beside her like an honored guest. Barrister Ikanam cleared his throat. "Madame Ada has requested this family meeting to clarify certain matters," he began. "She has asked me to present documentation regarding assets, land holdings and inheritance." Mira scoffed. "Inheritance? What inheritance?" Mama Ada opened the basket slowly and pulled out a thick brown envelope. She handed it to the lawyer without a word. Ikanam placed several documents on the table. Land titles, ownership certificates, savings account statements, government letters. "This," he said, "is evidence that Madame Ada owns all the land from the central market to the river bend, including this compound." Uche's eyes widened. "What? This land is yours?" "Yes," Mama Ada replied softly. "Your father registered it in my name before he died. For protection. And in case you ever forgot where you came from." Mira stepped forward. "So, you're saying this house is yours?" "I built it. With my own hands and sweat. Every wall here knows my sorrow." The lawyer continued, "There's also documentation showing that Mama Ada was one of the founding investors in the Women's Rural Bank. She was instrumental in funding agricultural cooperatives in this region." Mira stared in disbelief. "You mean, she had money all this while? And she was washing plates?" "Yes," Mama Ada replied. "Because dignity is not tied to riches. But don't mistake humility for weakness." Uche looked away ashamed. "Why didn't you tell me?" Mama Ada turned to him. "Because a tree that boasts too early withers before harvest. I wanted to see who you'd become on your own." Barrister Ikanam stood and bowed slightly. "There's more. But I believe Madame Ada wishes to show you herself." And then with a steady hand Mama Ada reached back into the basket. From the basket, Mama Ada pulled out an old, wrapped bundle secured with a faded ribbon. She untied it slowly, revealing gold bangles, black and white photographs, and a letter with a red seal. She passed one photo to Uche. It showed a younger Mama Ada shaking hands with a former regional governor. "That was the year your father died," she explained. "I was appointed head of the Women's Agricultural Board." Another photo showed her receiving a plaque. "I never told anyone. Not even your father knew I had shares in 3 transport companies," she continued. "I lived quietly. Waiting. Watching." She handed Mira the sealed letter. Mira hesitated. "What is this?" "A commendation from the Ministry of Rural Development. They offered me an honorary title. I declined. Not every crown must be worn." Myra's hands trembled as she opened it. Tears welled in her eyes, not out of empathy but out of disbelief. You were someone important." "I still am," Mama Ada said with a calm fierceness. Uche turned to his mother. "All this time, you let us think you were just old and tired." "I was tired, yes," she said, locking eyes with him. "Tired of disrespect. But I was never empty." Then came the last revelation. She placed a dusty savings booklet on the table. "The balance? Over 18 million naira." Mira gasped. "I saved every widow's salary, every grant, every small business profit. I built wealth in silence." The room went still. Mira slowly sank into a chair. "I called you a liability, mocked you?" Mama Ada looked at her, not with anger, but with immeasurable power. "You didn't hurt me, Mira. You exposed yourself." The basket, once seen as a symbol of old age and irrelevance, now sat like a throne in the center of the room. Mama Ada stood tall, shoulders back, eyes glowing with quiet authority. I carried this basket through wars, widowhood, and starvation. It fed your father, shielded you, and preserved your future. But you mocked it, called it useless. Mira lowered her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. It's not your tears I need, Mama Ada replied. It's your reflection. Let it show you who you've been. Uche looked his mother in the eye. Forgive me too, Mama. I failed you. She nodded. You did. But now you must choose. Will you keep failing or will you stand? Silence. Then Mama Ada turned back to the basket and pulled out a smaller item wrapped in cloth. She opened it slowly. Inside was a silver necklace. This belonged to my mother. I was meant to give it to my daughter-in-law when I saw that she had the heart of one. Mira stared at the necklace, tears streaming. But not today, Mama Ada said, gently wrapping it again. You're not ready. She turned and walked to her room, basket in hand. That evening Mira sat alone in the compound. The laughter from children playing nearby, the rustle of trees, the hum of night, it all sounded different now. She realized the woman she had humiliated was the pillar holding them all up. And that basket? It wasn't just filled with items. It was filled with truth. And truth doesn't stay locked away forever. Night fell softly over the village. The stars blinked awake, and the warm hum of crickets filled the silence in the compound. Uche sat outside by the orange tree, his head in his hands, the weight of guilt pressing heavily on his shoulders. Inside, Mama Ada lit a small kerosene lamp. The flame flickered softly, casting long shadows on the walls of her tiny room. She sat beside the basket, now partially emptied, and pulled from it a yellowed envelope. A knock on her door broke the quiet. Mama, Uche said gently. Come in. He entered slowly, like a boy seeking forgiveness from his teacher. I couldn't sleep. I didn't expect you to, Mama Ada replied, her voice soft but steady. He sat on the floor beside her mat. Why didn't you tell me? About the land, the money, all of it? She held up the envelope. This, she said, is your father's last letter to me. He wrote it when he was sick, right before he passed. Uche took the envelope and read slowly, the words in his father's familiar handwriting. My dearest Ada, if I don't make it through this sickness, protect our son. Raise him well, but do not give him everything too early. A man must earn the weight of legacy. Let him grow roots first. Then when the storms come he won't fall. Uche's hands trembled. He asked you to keep it from me? He trusted that you would find your own strength before needing mine. Uche looked up at her, eyes moist. And did I? Find that strength. She studied him for a long moment. You had it. But you gave it away, for peace in your marriage. I was afraid, Uche admitted. Afraid of confrontation. Afraid of being the man he wanted me to be. She reached out and placed her hand on his. Then stop being afraid. This family needs a man. Not a shadow. They sat in silence for a while. Mama, will you ever forgive me? I already have. But now you must forgive yourself. By morning the entire village knew. From the market square to the church steps, whispers turned into roars. Mama Ada, widow, quiet matriarch, presumed dependent, was now spoken of with awe. Do you know she owns all the land from here to the river? I heard she funded 3 schools in secret. They say her basket held over 18 million naira. At the women's meeting later that week, elder Mama Onyeka stood and raised her voice. For years, we let this woman be insulted under her own roof. Today we rise for her. The women cheered. Meanwhile, back at the compound, guests began arriving with gifts. Tubers of yam, jars of honey, new wrappers. Mama Ada accepted them with humility. Amaka, the young neighbor, came running with a beaded bracelet. Mama, I made this for you. Mama Ada bent and hugged her tightly. You have a giving heart. Don't ever change. Mira watched it all unfold from behind the curtain. Her stomach churned with unease. Once people came to see her. Now they passed by her as if she were the shadow. At noon Mama Ifioma came with a carved walking stick. You've carried too many burdens on your back. Now walk with dignity. They laughed together, 2 old friends reunited by truth. Inside, Uche called a carpenter to repair Mama Ada's roof and repaint her room. Mira snapped. You didn't repaint our room after we got married. It was never about paint, Uche replied. Later that evening the choir from church came and sang outside her door. Songs of honor, resilience, and the Proverbs 31 woman. Mira sat in the bedroom, fists clenched. She had mocked the very basket the village now revered. And soon, Mama Ada would make a decision that would shake what was left of Myra's pride. One crisp morning, Barrister Ikanem returned to the compound. This time he brought a notary and 3 witnesses. The document in his hand, Mama Ada's revised will. Mira spotted him and panicked. "What's he doing back here again?" Uche shrugged. "You'll find out." In the living room, Mama Ada sat on her carved chair, wrapped in her sky-blue ceremonial wrapper, her silver necklace now proudly around her neck. "Everyone sit," she commanded gently. Mira hesitated. Uche pulled her along. Barrister Ikanem cleared his throat. "Madame Ada has asked me to read the contents of her updated will." He opened the document. "I, Ada Nwankwo, being of sound mind and memory, hereby declare the following." Mira leaned forward. "My farmlands, savings, transport shares and remaining assets shall be transferred to my son, Uche Nwankwo, provided he maintains peace and dignity in this home." He paused and looked at Mira. "If peace cannot be maintained or if respect continues to rot in this compound, the estate shall instead be donated in full to the Umun's orphan fund." Mira gasped. "What? You'd rather give everything to strangers than your own family?" Mama Ada looked her in the eye. "Respect begins in the home. Charity begins in the heart. But I'm your daughter-in-law. You became family the day you married my son. But blood does not make a daughter. Actions do." Mira stood up in anger. "This is ridiculous." "Mira," Uche warned, but she had already stormed off. The lawyer continued, undisturbed. "I also bequeath an annual allowance for the mentorship of young village women, especially those overlooked and undervalued." Uche's hands tightened into fists. "She's not thinking about herself. Even now." Mama Ada nodded. "Legacy is not in what you store, it's in what you share." Mira sat in the room alone, her mind racing. Her clothes, her jewelry, even her wedding photos, suddenly felt hollow. That afternoon she walked to Mama Ada's room. She knocked, then knelt on the floor. "Mama?" The old woman didn't turn. "I came to say I'm sorry," Mira said, her voice shaking. I've been horrible." Still no response. Mira continued, "I didn't know about who you are, what you did. But that's not an excuse. I treated you like a nobody." Mama Ada turned slowly. Her eyes were calm but unreadable. "Mira," she said, "it is not your apology I'm waiting for." Myra's voice broke. "Then what? What can I do?" Mama Ada stared at her. "Change. That's all. Real change. I don't know how." "Then start by learning." From that day Mira began to rise early, sweeping the compound, joining the women in the kitchen, fetching water, sitting quietly at women's meetings. At first it felt fake. But slowly the motions became genuine. She helped Amaka with schoolwork. She carried baskets. She walked behind Mama Ada, not in shame but in respect. But Mama Ada said nothing. Not one compliment. Not one thank you. And that silence hurt more than insults ever had. One week after the reading of the will, Uche called for a private meeting in the living room. Mira entered cautiously. Uche stood, his hands trembling slightly. "Mira," he began, "I've watched you. I've seen the effort. But this marriage is not just about trying after damage is done." She looked down. "For years I let you mistreat the woman who gave me life. I stood by and I failed both of you." He took a deep breath. "No more." Mira blinked. "What do you mean?" "If you ever raise your voice at my mother again, or treat her with disrespect, this marriage is over." Her mouth opened in shock. "I'm serious, Mira. This is your chance. Don't lose it." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't mean to become this person." "But you did. And only you can undo it." Mama Ada stood in the hallway listening. She didn't step in, but her heart stirred. For the first time, her son had spoken like the man she raised him to be. Mira wiped her face. "I'll earn your respect. Both of you." "Then let's start today," Uche said, offering his hand. She took it, this time not as a conqueror but as someone learning to rebuild from the ground up. And behind the curtain Mama Ada smiled faintly. She hadn't opened her basket that day, but something inside her had. Weeks passed and the household changed. The air that once crackled with tension had quieted. Mira now rose before dawn, fetching water and sweeping, no longer out of fear but out of newfound responsibility. Mama Ada watched quietly. She said little, offered no praise, but she noticed. One afternoon she called Mira into her room. The basket was on her lap again, but this time, its lid was already open. "Sit," she said. Mira sat on the floor nervous. "You've swept and served," Mama Ada said slowly. But respect is not service. It's how you carry others in your heart. Mira nodded. I understand. Mama Ada reached into the basket and, beneath the photos and documents, pulled out a smaller pouch tied with twine. It was old but tightly sealed. She placed it in Myra's hands. Open it. Inside were journals. Handwritten, carefully preserved. What are these? Lessons, memories, recipes, prayers. I wrote them for the woman I thought my son would marry. I kept them hidden because I feared the world no longer made wives like that. Myra's hands trembled. Why give them to me now? Because I see glimpses of her in you. Not because you're perfect, but because you've begun to reflect. Mira swallowed hard. I want to be worthy. Mama Ada nodded. Then learn. Share. Teach. The next day Mira began reading the journals. She sat under the mango tree, reciting aloud to Amaka and other village girls who came around. She said ogbono soup is not just food, it's storytelling, Mira told them. If cooked well, it tells the history of your hands. The girls laughed and Mira laughed too, genuinely. Later that week, Mama Ada visited the women's cooperative. Mira followed quietly, watching as Mama Ada donated seeds and tools in her name. She's planting more than crops, one elder whispered. She's planting a new legacy. And through it all, the basket remained, still half full, still holding stories not yet shared. It started with a cough, then fatigue, then a fever that wouldn't break. Mama Ada tried to hide it at first, but one morning she collapsed while boiling yam. The pot shattered on the ground and the compound froze in panic. Mama? Mira screamed, rushing out barefoot. They carried her inside. Uche fetched the doctor. The test came back, a chest infection compounded by exhaustion. She needs complete rest. No stress. Warm food. Monitoring, the doctor said. Mira nodded, tears streaming. She'll get everything. Day and night, Mira stayed by Mama Ada's side. She wiped her face with warm cloths, fed her slowly, whispered prayers into her ear. You're going to be fine, Mama, she said one evening, holding her frail hand. You have to be. Uche too was affected. He canceled all travel and appointments. He cooked and even sang songs from childhood to lift her spirits. The village heard of her illness and the visits began. Children brought fruits. Women brought herbs. Elders came to sit and tell stories. One night, Mira knelt beside the mat, face buried in her hands. Please don't die thinking I hated you. Please. Behind her, a raspy voice murmured, I never thought that. Mira turned. Mama Ada's eyes were open, weak but warm. You changed, she whispered. I didn't deserve your kindness, Mira said through tears. Mama Ada touched her cheek. Kindness doesn't wait for permission. It grows where it's planted. Mira broke down. For the next 2 weeks, she bathed Mama Ada gently, styled her hair, sang to her at night. And slowly, miraculously, the old woman improved. One morning, Mira woke to find Mama Ada sitting up, sipping tea. You're awake, she exclaimed. I never left, Mama Ada replied. I was just watching. Mira laughed through tears. In that moment, their past burned away like morning mist. Mama Ada regained her strength steadily. By her birthday, she was walking around the compound again, slow but sure-footed. The village planned a celebration, a way to honor her resilience. Mira worked tirelessly. She swept the compound, decorated the courtyard with fresh palm fronds, even cooked Mama Ada's favorite meal, roasted yam with pepper sauce and bitter leaf soup. She used to mock that food, Uche teased gently. Now I know better, Mira smiled. On the day of the celebration, guests arrived with gifts. Woven baskets, ankara wrappers, kola nuts. But it was Myra's gift that stunned everyone. During the toast, Mira walked into the center of the courtyard, holding a hand-woven blanket. I made this for you, she said. Mama Ada smiled. It's beautiful. But that's not all. She turned and lifted a clay pot. Inside was a bowl of roasted snails and pepper sauce. Mama Ada's childhood favorite. I learned how to make this from your journal. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mama Ada's eyes filled with tears. You remembered, she whispered. I remembered everything. Mama Ada stood slowly and embraced her. For the first time, she said aloud, I see not just my son's wife, but my daughter. The crowd clapped. Mama Ifioma leaned toward one of the elders. She opened the basket. But the real gift was that girl learning who she is. That night, after everyone left, Mama Ada and Mira sat under the moonlight. You gave me more than a blanket, the old woman said. You gave me restoration. And you gave me more than journals, Mira replied. You gave me purpose. They sat in silence, the stars watching. Inside, the basket now held less but meant more than ever. And deep in the quiet night, it seemed to glow. The following week, the compound shimmered with life. Mango trees swayed in the warm breeze, and children played barefoot along the path that once echoed with tension. There was peace, genuine, earned, and deeply felt. Mira stood in front of the mirror tying a golden wrapper, her hair plaited simply and beautifully. Her eyes caught her own reflection, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't see a woman trying to prove something. She saw someone who had grown. Outside, Mama Ada sat on her wooden chair, now positioned in the shade of the guava tree. Her basket rested by her feet, slightly open yet unbothered. She wasn't guarding it anymore. She was sharing it. Uche stepped into the courtyard wearing a clean white shirt and a soft smile. "They're waiting," he said. "For who?" Mama Ada asked, teasing. "For the queen herself," he replied with a grin. They all laughed. A crowd had gathered by the village square. Women from the cooperative, elders, schoolchildren, and curious villagers all came, not for drama, not for gossip, but for celebration. The village chief arrived and took a seat at the front row. Mama Ifioma was beside him, beaming. Mira walked up to the center with a microphone in hand. Her voice was calm yet strong. "We are here today not just to honor a woman," she began, "but to honor a seed that bloomed in silence, in pain, and in wisdom." She paused and turned to Mama Ada. "Your silence wasn't weakness, it was waiting. And we thank you for waiting long enough for us to catch up." The crowd applauded. Uche wiped tears discreetly. Mama Ada stood slowly, supported by her walking stick, and walked to the front. "I have lived through war, widowhood, betrayal, and silence," she said. "But today I speak because the soil is ready. The basket is open. And what I give now is my legacy." She turned to Mira and placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "This is my daughter." Mira choked back a sob. The crowd stood and clapped. Some shouted praise. Children threw flowers. Back home, as the sun dipped into orange and gold, Mama Ada and Mira sat under the same mango tree. "You've earned this," Mama Ada said. "What?" "My name." Mira looked confused. "In this village, when a mother-in-law gives her daughter-in-law her own title, it means the blood has accepted the bond. From now on they'll call you Ada Jr." Mira gasped, tears blurring her vision. "Thank you." "You did the work," Mama Ada whispered. "All I did was open the basket." The compound was still and soft, touched by the breath of dawn. Birds chirped from the rooftops and dew kissed the grasses. Mira sat alone outside Mama Ada's room, watching the sunrise, its hues of orange, lavender, and gold painting the sky like hope on canvas. Inside, Mama Ada was awake, sitting beside her beloved basket. Her hands ran slowly across its lid. There was only one thing left inside, tucked beneath the folded journals, past the old savings book, beneath the photographs and sealed documents. She took it out gently. It was a black and white photograph, creased at the corners, yet unbroken. It showed a much younger Mama Ada standing beside her late husband. Between them a boy of 10, Uche. Her eyes in the photo were fierce, her posture commanding. She wasn't just a mother or wife, she was a builder. A knock came. "Mama?" Myra's voice floated through the door. "Come in, my daughter." Mira entered slowly, already dressed for the dedication ceremony happening at the local church. The new women's training center was about to open, and it was being named in Mama Ada's honor. "You're holding something," Mira said softly. Mama Ada smiled. "The last piece of the basket." She handed her the photograph. "I kept this hidden because it reminded me of who I used to be, before grief, before silence. But now I want you to see it." Mira studied the image. "You were powerful. I still am." Mira looked up. "What should I do with this?" "Frame it. Hang it in the women's hall. Let them see where power begins, with identity." Mira nodded. Then Mama Ada held her gaze. "Do you know what this basket really was? A treasure chest?" "No," Mama Ada chuckled. "It was a mirror. Everything I put in it was never meant to hide. It was meant to reflect." Myra's heart tightened. "Reflect what?" "Who we are, who we can become, and what we must protect." Tears filled Myra's eyes. "I understand now." Mama Ada smiled. Later that day the dedication was vibrant. Songs filled the air, women danced in colorful attires, and the chief cut the ribbon. On the main wall of the new center, the framed photo hung proudly beside a plaque. "The Basket of Legacy, in honor of Mama Ada Nwankwo." Underneath it, a quote in gold script read, "Silence is not weakness. It is waiting for wisdom to speak. At the front of the crowd, Mama Ada sat, her basket by her side, now empty but never hollow. Mira stood beside her, holding her hand. As drums beat and the celebration roared, Mama Ada leaned close and whispered, "Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you live long enough to pass on." And in that moment, beneath the warm sun and amidst the cheers of a grateful village, the story of a basket, a woman and her legacy came full circle. Not with an ending, but with a new beginning. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.